Call this meeting to order of the San Benito Consolidated Independent School District Board of Trustees, regular board meeting of Tuesday, December 9th at 7 p.m. Item number 2 is roll call. Please state your name or say aye when I state your name. Orla Padilla, aye. Hector Leal, absent. Oscar Medrano, absent. Angel Mendez.
Aye.
Ana Cruz.
Aye.
Fatima Huerta.
Aye.
Ileana Gonzalez.
Aye.
Mr. Limon.
Aye.
And Mr. Torres, our attorney. Before we proceed, I'd like to extend our thoughts and our prayers for Hector Leal. I understand that he was admitted to the hospital today. Hopefully he's doing well, and we keep him in our prayers, and we are sure that hopefully he'll do well. Item number 3 is Pledge of Allegiance. Tonight we have 2 distinguished young guests, one to assist us with our invocation and one to assist us with our Pledge of Allegiance. In our invocation, we have a young lady by the name of Abigail Jacqueline Nunes. Abigail Jacqueline Nunes just turned 10 in November and is in 4th grade. Her favorite subject is reading, although she is fond of science. In her spare time, Abby loves reading books and drawing. While attending IDEA San Benito, she received a Little Dragon Award twice, which is an equivalent to Student of the Year. She has always been an A honor roll and continues to do so at Sullivan Elementary. She is a member of the Science and Pep Squad Club. Abigail aspires to be a veterinarian when she grows up. Abigail is the daughter of proud parents Sergio and Yvonne Nunes. Leading us in the Pledge of Allegiance is Madison Hushen. Madison is 9 years old and is a 4th grader student at Sullivan Elementary. She is a current member of the Thespian, Student Council, and Explorers Club. She has also been a member of the Gifted and Talented program since kindergarten. Madison has been awarded a top achiever in 1st, 2nd, and 3rd grade. She also has been on the honor roll every year since 1st grade. Madison has participated in the last 3 years in Sullivan Elementary's talent show. Last year, her and her partner received 1st place in singing category. She is one of the top AR students and loves to read. Her favorite subject is science. Ever since she can remember, she has had a passion for animals. Over the years, her pets have included dogs, cats, fish, turtles, snails, and geckos. Madison's dream is to become a veterinarian and to run her very own animal rescue business. Madison is the proud daughter of Tom and Bobby Joe Hushen. Now, if I could have everybody rise for both the invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God and one and indivisible.
God of all creation, we come before you today to give you honor and praise. You are the source of all that is good. You are the source of all of our blessings. Thank you for every gift we have been given. We thank you for the opportunity to come and gather to get together on this day. We ask for your hand of blessing on this meeting. We ask that you would guide and direct our school board members so that they are full of wisdom, productivity, and respect for one another. Thank you for helping us to accomplish our work and our goals on this day while we focus our decisions and our energy on the students of the district. Amen.
Amen. Madison and Abigail, could you stand up? Thank you very much. There you go. And will the parents of both Madison and Abigail please rise? Before we move on to item number 5, I do want to take the time to recognize someone in the audience who's traveled a long distance to join us today. Today in the audience we have Dr. Marcus Puig and his wonderful wife Kelly. We welcome you to San Benito. Thank you for joining us for our meeting this evening. Dr. Puig, actually, we'd give you the mic for a minute if you'd like to say anything, or...
I don't have time, thank you. I just want to say, community of San Benito, that as she read the prayer, what an honor it is to have the gift of service. And I am honored deeply to have the opportunity tonight to be selected to serve your community and these children. I thank you for that deeply. Thank you.
Move to item number 5, special recognitions. Mr. Limon.
Thank you, Mr. President. This time I turn it over to Ms. Longoria for special recognition. Celia.
We are very honored this evening. We do have a lot of champions that we're going to be calling before the board so that they can earn the proper recognition. First of all, I'll begin with Miller Jordan Middle School. And I would like to ask Desiree Saucedo, a 7th grader at Miller Jordan Middle School, to join us up at the front. This young lady received the honors of being the 2014 7th grade female district champion. And she is here using her banner here, showing off her banner and her track shoes. It should be on. We do have Coach Mari Partida. That is the coach, and I'd like to recognize Coach Mari Partida. And we have some assistant coaches, Pablo Sanchez and Jesse Phillips. I'd also like to recognize the principal from Miller Jordan Middle School, Mary Alice Leal, and assistant principal Rosie Garcia, who's in the audience because Mrs. Leal couldn't make the meeting this evening. So once again, congratulations to Desiree Saucedo, the 7th grade female cross-country district champion, and she got a time of 9:06 at the Los Fresnos track meet. Congratulations. And I'd like to recognize her parents. If they're in the audience, please stand and be recognized at this time. We have some other cross-country winners from Miller Jordan Middle School. Actually, they are the champions. And I'd like to start by calling on Romeo Garcia. Javier Joaquín Medina. Anthony Muñiz. Jeremy Sauceda. Johnny Robles. Joaquín Chávez. Rigoberto Hernandez couldn't join us this evening, and neither could Aaron Torres. We have other team members, Aaron Lucero, Nathan Vera, Jevin Rubio, Manuel Rodríguez, Matthew Delgado, and Aaron Salazar. And I have a little bit of their accomplishments. Romeo Garcia placed 4th, Javier Joaquín Medina placed 8th, Anthony Muñiz placed 13th. Jeremy Sauceda, 14th. Johnny Robles placed 16th. Joaquin Chavez placed 17th. And Rigoberto Hernandez placed 20th. And so we'd like to congratulate Coach Mari Partida and her very special assistant coaches, Pablo Sanchez and Jesse Phillips. Congratulations. And this was at the 7th grade cross-country district champions. That's where they got that recognition. So congratulations, boys, and we'll see you here next year, right? Because you're going to be the champions again. At this time, I'd like to recognize the parents. Parents, if you're in the audience, please stand and be recognized. And we do have some special recognition cards that the students will receive. And Mr. Mendez will present them to all of our champions here this evening.
Go Cougars!
All right. Great job, boys. We have another middle school that we'd like to honor this evening, Berta Cavazza Middle School. We had one young man that was named the 8th grade district champion, and he is Albert Perez. Congratulations to Albert Perez. And he is joined by Coach Juan Orozco. And the principal at that campus is Ray Saldaña. And we have our school board member, Ms. Ileana Gonzalez, doing the honors this evening. I'd like to recognize the parents of Albert Perez. If y'all are in the audience, please stand and be recognized at this time. Thank you, Coach. Congratulations. This next group from Berta Cavazza Middle School, these are the 8th grade football district champions. They were undefeated, and they are the city champions. They were also undefeated. They had an 8-0 season, and they had 6 shutouts, and they outscored their opponents 270-20. And Coach Davila was very proud of that, and he wanted to make sure that you guys got a copy of their schedule with all of the scores throughout the whole season. So he did provide that for y'all. We'd like to recognize the team members. And Ms. Ileana Gonzalez will do the honors in presenting these awards to the team members, to our champions. They are Maverick Reza, Alberto Perez, Justin Torres, Isidoro Nájera, Avelino García, Michael Robles, Eric Ibarra, Justin Rivera, Nathaniel García, Anthony Trejo, Nico Castañeda, Mitch Guajardo, Daniel Dial, Andy García, Jacob Cavazos, Albert Mercado, Secundinos Mejía. Yair Pérez. And we have their proud coach, Coach David Davila, Coach joining him, Coach Elias Martinez and Coach Victor Trejo. And the principal at Berta Cavazza Middle School is Mr. Ray Saldaña, and he is in the audience as well. And ladies and gentlemen, these are your 8th grade football district champions from Berta Cavazza Middle School. Congratulations, boys. At this time, we'd like to recognize the parents. Parents, if you all are in the audience, please stand at this time so we can recognize you properly. Great job, boys. Congratulations. Thank you. Thank you. And of course, we have comfort in knowing that some of these younger boys from our middle schools are going to be moving up to the varsity level eventually. And it gives me great pride to be able to introduce members of the varsity football team from San Benito High School. Of course, we do know that we also have some freshmen that are on the varsity team as well from San Benito Veterans Memorial Academy. So we'd like to honor them as well. And I'll start by introducing them. These are your 32 6A co-district champions, by-district champions, and 2014 Battle of the Arroyo champions. And Ms. Fatima Huerta is doing the honors this evening. We'll start off with Victor Gaitan. Raúl Mota. Christian Sierra. Armando Medrano. Mario Valdez. Benito Cavazos. Juan Hernández. Gaetan Jr., Javier Ortiz, Álvaro Vargas, Daniel Guerra, George Cantu, Isaac Sanchez, Gabriel Vasquez, Leo Garza, John Belmares, Raúl R.J. Atkinson, Flavio Díaz, Julio Pesina, Edward Álvarez, Emilio Garza, Omar García, Juan Salas, Jimmy Macías, and I'd like to mention that our board president, Arnold Padilla, is doing the honors for this next group. Roel Rodriguez is our next honoree. Matthew Izaguirre, Ricky Quintanilla. Skylar Garcia. Juan Gonzalez. Ruben Reyes. Christopher Sanchez. Abraham Estrada. Jacob Zuniga. Ismael Escamilla. Richard Moreno. Matthew Torres. And there you have the Battle of the Arroyo Trophy. Woohoo! All right. Show it off. Javier Carrillo. Jose R. Rodriguez. Ryan Gonzalez. Oscar Nordin. Julian Manzini. Mark Lopez. Paul Treviño. Juan Aguirre. Alex Garcia. Andrew Olivares. Alex Veloz. Ramiro Reza. Joseph Partida. Brandon Rico. Marco Zúñiga. Gilbert Sandoval. George Garcia. José Martínez. Alexis Martínez. Alejandro Lugo. Brandon Huerta. Brandon Gonzalez Leal. Is it Brandon? Christopher Obregón. Michael Zimmerly. Leo Reyes. John Alvarez. Pedro Coronado. And Christopher Padilla. Before I go on to recognize some of their accomplishments, I do want to recognize the coaches. The head coach and athletic director is Dan Gomez. Offensive coordinator is Gilbert Leal. Haskell Buck is the defensive coordinator. The co-defensive coordinator is Michael Moll. Special teams coordinator is Alex Rosales. The assistant coaches are William Huerta, Jimmy Young, Johnny Garza, Victor Revolcava, Eddie Gonzalez, Moses Cantu, Juan Rangel, Joshua Perez. The athletic coordinator is Ramiro Partida. I'd like to mention the athletic secretary is Yolanda Gonzalez. High school principal is Henry Sanchez. VMA principal is Mr. Gilbert Galvan. And let me mention a little bit about the 32-6A All-District Honors. And as boys, as I call your name, if you can kind of wave to the crowd so we can know who you are. The defensive lineman of the year is Christopher Padilla. Quarterback, Christian Sierra. Tailback, halfback, Gabriel Vasquez. And these are all first team honorees. Inside slot receiver is Victor Gaitan. Inside slot receiver, Javi Ortiz. Outside receiver, RJ Atkinson. Down lineman, Brandon Leal. corner is Mario Valdez. Return specialist is Armando Medrano. Congratulations to the first team honorees. And the second team honorees are center, Paul Trevino. Offensive guard, Julian Vanzini. Offensive tackle, Joseph Partida. Outside wide receiver is Armando Medrano. JC Hernandez, the corner, also made the second team. Ismael Gaitan, return specialist. Deep snapper, Andrew Olivares. And these next honorees are all honorable mention, and they are tailback, halfback, Edward Alvarez. Offensive guard, Ramiro Reza. Offensive tackle, Gilbert Sandoval. Fullback is Julio Pesina. Down lineman is John Alvarez. Another down lineman, Christopher Obregon. We have two inside linebackers that made honorable mention, and they are Richard Moreno and Roel Rodriguez. Defensive end, Pedro Coronado. Two outside linebackers made honorable mention. They are Alvaro Vargas and Juan Salas. Safety, Juan Gonzalez, also made honorable mention. Place kicker, Alejandro Lugo. And deep snapper, Leo Garza. And this, ladies and gentlemen, are your district winners. And of course, we're very proud of their accomplishments under first-year Greyhound coach Dan Gomez and his coaching staff. I know the rest of the coaches are here in the audience, so let's give them a big hand. And these boys, there's a banquet the quarterback club is putting on this weekend on Sunday at 3 o'clock. So I know you guys are going to be honored there as well. At this time, we'd like to recognize the parents. If they're in the audience, we'd like to ask them to stand, please. Great job. That concludes the special recognition. Thank you, boys.
At the request of our attorney, we're going to veer from our agenda a bit. There's a request to go to item number 9, that being a closed meeting under the discussion under the authority of Texas 551071 for the purpose of private consultation with the board's attorney on any subject or matters authorized by law. Item being number 1412A8, land transaction. This time we go into closed session at 7:31.
Those of you that are part of the superintendent's report, don't go anywhere. We'll be back shortly.
Back in session at 7:42. Next item on the agenda is item number 6, superintendent's report.
Thank you, Mr. President. This time, I would like to notify the board of the overnight trips that have been scheduled. We have San Benito High School. FFA will travel to Cedar Creek, Texas. The State Sullivan Summer Contest, May 29th and 30th, 2015. San Benito High School Choir will travel to Rockford, Texas, to the area choir initials on January 9th and the 10th, 2015. Next item on the superintendent's report, we have an update on the instructional improvement initiative, and I'll turn it over to Mr.
Good evening. My name is Cristina Barrientos. I'd like to give you a brief update on the Instructional Improvement Initiative, and I would like to introduce two of my colleagues from the Children's Learning Institute. We have Darcy Daicha up here, who is here along with Holly Rocha, and they will be providing a training for our deans and instructional specialists tomorrow, along with visiting campuses on Thursday. As you see, we have the support for the data-informed professional development plan that was created by CLI along with district. Up to now, you have the following trainings that have been completed since our last update. We have the foundational comprehension, which is our reading with purpose and think, turn, talk for grades 6 through 12. And we had the follow-up and planning that goes along with that for grades 3 through 5 and 6 through 12. This past Friday, we did have the phonics part 1 that will be rolled out to the kinder through 2nd grade teachers. Upcoming, we have tomorrow our determining importance and summarizing, and that training will be given to 6 through 12 in the morning and 3rd through 5th grade in the afternoon. And we also have, prior to our Christmas break on December 16th, we have a phonics part 2, which we have one of our colleagues from the Children's Learning Institute, Becky Beagle, who will be demonstrating those lessons at Sullivan Elementary on that date. And the specialists will be able to see the demonstrations with the students, and we will also record those demonstrations so that the teachers can have access to viewing all those lessons. In the month of October and the beginning of November, I did campus instructional check-ins with the elementary curriculum director. And basically what we did is we went to each campus and we made sure that we were on track with the trainings, made sure we could offer support, got some feedback on how things are going with the initiative. So basically we just had one-on-one meetings to make sure things were going as planned. At the campus level, up until now, we've had all elementary trainings provided for that first training, which is the reading with purpose and think, turn, talk. So all the 3rd through 5th grade teachers have received those trainings. And in terms of the deans of instructions, we're getting there. We have 4 secondary campuses, and so far we are pending the high school training due to testing and EOC. So we are working closely with the high school to make sure that that training gets turned around as soon as possible. We also have the training for that part 1 of phonics, which is currently taking place at all the campuses. So as a part of our professional development model, our specialists and deans need to be writing lesson plans based on the resources that the teachers have so that we can see implementation in the classroom. And up until now, they have begun writing those lesson plans with our feedback to make sure they're really staying true to the routine that was taught during the professional development. The next step is they have already demonstrated at all the elementary campuses the routine in the classroom. And so along with that, they are now getting ready to observe the teachers doing that lesson after they have practiced with the specialists on that campus. On the next page, you'll see other. With the instructional initiative, we had a busy month in November with the math trainings that were provided by staff development and curriculum instruction. And so you see the dates that specialists attended those math trainings along with myself. And then you have some other meetings I was requested to attend. Briefly, under the notes, I just wanted to give you some of the highlights of what has this implementation, how it has begun to impact classrooms. And this is taken from one instructional specialist as she gave feedback to one of her teachers after observing the teacher's lesson utilizing the comprehension purpose question and the intertalk routine. And she says, as you were able to experience, the rationale for CPQ and TTT questions is to purposely develop the student's ability to think critically about their reading and their responses. Our students need to be led in order to be critical thinkers, to be reflective, and to be active participants in enriched dialogue with peers and within classroom discussions. Not surprisingly, you nailed this lesson as a teacher. The frosting on the cake for both of us was to see for ourselves how the strategies reach students at different levels within each rotation, as the discussions unfolded depending on the class dynamic and the students' abilities. And so that's what we're looking for with implementation, that there's a lot of guidance for the teacher, and that eventually they get to see the benefits of what their students can do given this proper instruction and at the level that they can comprehend if we follow through and implement these routines. And of course, it's a process and it takes time, but that's the kind of commitment that we need from our administrators, from our specialists, and from the teachers who are willing to try this with their students and see how it can implement positively in terms of instruction, and it can improve the level of instruction in the classroom. Lastly, the next steps, our teachers will now begin that process of demonstrating with the kinder through second grade teachers and the phonics routine that we have in place. And so that's where we'll be heading, along with the training that will be provided tomorrow with Ms. Daicha and Ms. Rocha.
Any questions?
Any questions?
You have, go ahead.
I have a question, or more so a concern. I know that we had a curriculum meeting not too long ago, Mr. Limon, and at that meeting, I made Ms. Sanchez aware that I've been getting a lot of concerns with the amount of time that's being spent on teachers being pulled out of the classrooms, and in addition to that, the administrators as well. My concern is the fact that we're pulling out the professionals and we're leaving the instruction up to the paraprofessionals. And I think that that's going to negatively impact student performance because the professionals are the ones that should be delivering the instruction versus the paraprofessionals. And my concern is that this report you're presenting, the think, turn, talk is one strategy in itself, amongst many others that you are going to present. And yet this one is taking up so much of our students' instructional time, taking the teachers away. And at the end of the day, our student performance is going to be negatively impacted, and then our scores are going to suffer because the students are never going to get the same quality instruction from a teacher as opposed to a substitute or an instructional aid, even though they've been guided to provide that kind of instruction. And that's more so my concern, that we've invested a good deal of money into this program, and I just don't know if we're going to have the positive effects that we're expecting, because our teachers are being pulled out so much, as well as the administrators who are there to oversee the proper implementation of this program. So I just want to know, how much time are we looking at? You know,
Well, we actually don't pull the teachers out for the training of the trainer of trainers. That is the specialists that are being pulled out during that time. They go in turn and work with their administrator and decide if they're going to do the training after school or during planning or PLC time during the school day for the CLI trainings.
Right, and it's my understanding that whatever the administrative team is deciding, it's affecting the instructional day,
Okay.
which is the bell-to-bell instruction. And so that's my concern. You know, if this is going to work the way it's intended to, I don't think we should jeopardize the instructional day of the students by removing the teacher who is a professional. That's my concern.
Okay.
It'll be addressed, ma'am. We need to let them, as the program that they were, selected by the board to perform, we need to let them do it.
Right, and I understand that, but not at the cost of taking instructional.
That's why we evaluate at the end. That's why we evaluate at the end whether it's going to be successful or not. In the meantime, we need to let them do it.
I mean, to me, I think we're wasting students' time, and I don't think it's fair for the students.
So noted.
One question I do have is,
Yes,
what's the cooperation been? Everybody's been supportive of it? Have you had anyone who steps back and doesn't want to participate, or?
I wouldn't say to that level, but I would say that I feel like we need to make sure that this is a priority if we want to see the impact that is intended to give. And so I know at the campus level there are a lot of priorities, but what we say is we want to improve instruction, and we know the best way to do it is to really make sure that we're changing and impacting how the teachers are performing in the classroom. And so that support comes through the instructional specialists. And so, for the most part, they are staying true to their role, and that's why I'm there to guide and support along with their administrators. But I would just say that I would suggest that it become more of a priority. That way we could really see the impact it can have for our students, and make sure that we're all on board, with it. Mhm.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Barrientos. Okay, next we have the presentation of the benchmark scores. Mr. Ruben Franco, if you'll come forward, please.
Good evening, board members. Mr. Limon, in front of you, you should find a blue packet that I left in front of you there. And I wanted to go over several of the pages in there, but not the entire booklet. And I'll have you know that there's even more paperwork associated with this, but I only am sharing with you a sampling of what the campuses get. This particular benchmark assessment was administered during the week of November 10th through the 14th. Only one subject was tested. I know in years past we've had multiple subjects tested, so in any comparisons that I show you here with prior years, keep that in mind that I am only going to be comparing reading to reading, and only one subject. I was told that the decision to do this was primarily based on the MAC, the lack of math TEKS objective test items in the test bank that we use, and we happen to use the STAR 1 test bank that's supported by Region 1. And so the decision was made that we would put off any benchmarking for that subject, and I assume then the other subjects, for some other reasons, were not tested either. However, they did go ahead and prepare a benchmark for reading. Another difference from last year to this year was that there wasn't the modified test included in this benchmark as there was the year before. There was only an English and a Spanish test, so that's also going to be a difference. And then they're planning on administering a summative benchmark sometime during the week of February the 9th through the 13th. And at that point, they will be measuring the student success or growth with the release test for last year. So based on that, if you'll turn your page to the first graph, the first graph on there shows you the scores that were reported for each of the campuses that tested. It shows in purple the current benchmark score for December, and in gold it will show you the 2013 benchmark score for last year, and this one's only for English. It is sorted in descending order so that by the current administration, so you can see from left to right where the better performance was noted. You can also notice at the very top of the report, it shows you what the district total was for passing for that grade level compared to last year. In essence, we were 1 percentage point below last year's benchmark. But again, I stress that you keep in mind that that's a benchmark test that now includes modified students that last year were excluded from this report because they were given a separate test for modified test for those students. And so this year they were given the regular test. So that would obviously have an impact. And that should not appear when we do have our actual administration of the assessment, because they will be able to take the star A. If you look at the next page, fourth grade, you see the same thing again where it's in descending order. You can, at a glance, notice where there are some performance gains by some campuses from one year to the next, and conversely where you see some losses. The district the district score for this year was 62%. Last year was 64. Once again, a small decrease. And again, keep in mind the modified tests are included on there. For fifth grade, you once again will see it also in descending order. You'll also see some gains and some losses, obviously, by the different campuses. And again, here you do see an increase in performance from 50% last year to 53% this year. The passing standards that were used for these benchmark tests were the same percentage correct of items correct that you would see on the raw score conversion tables for last year. We anticipate they're going to be very similar, if not exactly the same when they come out this year, but that was the passing standard that was used for each of these tests. If we go on to the Spanish test, you see the same concept again. It's in descending order. You'll notice that some campuses do not test in the Spanish assessment or with the Spanish assessment, and you'll notice that most of the ones that did test did show a decrease, or at least some of them showed a decrease from last year to this year. But I wouldn't be overly alarmed because a lot of these numbers are very small. In some cases, there may be one student, so it can go from 100% passing to 0, or there's 2 students and it can go very easy from 100 to 50 or 50 to 0. And we were talking about 2 students, and I realize that all students are important. But I just want you to know that there's a big variance in those percentages when it comes to the Spanish report. If you look at 4th grade, you'll see even fewer Spanish test takers. And so there's really only 2 campuses that tested in Spanish. The percentage from last year was 36%. Passing this year was 30%. But again, it's hard to make any real correlation with those scores because of the so few students being tested. 5th grade, even fewer students are being tested, and you'll see the same thing where last year the performance seemed higher than this year, but again, there was no modified test administered. The next slide, what I did was I compared 3 things. Last year's fall 3rd grade reading, 4th grade reading, 5th grade reading, for all the students that tested in the fall, regardless of the test. I compared that to the actual test performance that was for that grade level that you should see on the TAPR report. And then the last column is the fall for 2014, which is also cumulative of English and Spanish combined. And you can see that there isn't necessarily a direct correlation between a low score right now and what they will eventually score when the test is conducted. As you can see in 3rd grade, last year in the fall, they were at 56%, but when the actual test was administered, the state test, they performed at 70%. In grade 4, that was 61 was the benchmark performance for the year before. They then performed at 65 with the state assessment. And at grade 5, they were at 60% on the fall benchmark, but then went on to score 79 with the actual state assessment. So if you see some lower numbers at this stage of the year, please understand what they are. They're diagnostic tools for the schools to use. If you turn to the next series of pages, you'll notice that there's an item analysis by grade level that is being shown on there. It shows all the different TEKs. The reporting category, well, every question that was tested, there was 40 questions. It shows for each one of those questions what reporting category was being tested and what student expectation or TEKs were being tested. And then it's color-coded so that they can focus on those colors that are in the high risk or challenging, which would be the red. And so obviously on some pages you can notice a lot of red, and that certainly is a focus. It's a tool that the district uses to be able to focus on those areas that need additional attention as we continue with the educational year. Then if we continue a little further down, you'll see a graphical representation of those of that item analysis, so that again, at a glance, someone can tell which of the TEKs that are needing special attention, and where we're showing some significant gains. If we move on to the next tab or the next section, you'll notice that there's a by-campus comparison by each student expectation for every question that's been tested. And you can see them side by side so that you can, by student expectation, by campus, you can tell, or the district can tell, where there's a specific need for attention by the district to see where those deficiencies or why they're being created. As we move forward, because that goes on for a number of pages for all 40 questions, you'll see a report by reporting category. Again, there's only 2, and then followed by the individual TEKs and how many of those TEKs were actually represented in each of the different test questions, and then graphically an illustration of what that looks like. And then it goes on with the 4th grade and 5th grade, and we could go on and on. I also wanted to mention to you that in addition to these reports, the campuses can drill down further to teachers and how their particular classroom is doing in reports that are similar to this. They can even take it further down to where they can drill it down to an individual student and have the system indicate to them what areas of deficiencies they have specific to them. And that'll, of course, aid the staff in being able to focus any acceleration that they're going to be doing with that student. That's pretty much it. Any questions?
This year's fourth grade students compared to last year's third grade students, to see how much growth we've had. I see quite a bit of needs improvements, and I understand that there's items on here that still are being tested, of which were not modified. But nonetheless, when do we begin? Thank you. When do we begin addressing those issues, and even though they're being modified or not, those are the questions that we need to start asking ourselves, and how are we going to progress on helping our students succeed. 70 is standard, it's great, but we need to start reaching for above and beyond standard in this particular case.
And I will add that just so you'll know that the schools do have the ability to do just what you just mentioned. Again, I was reporting on benchmark scores, and because they're not easy to compare from last year to this year because of the addition of the modified test. Last year they had a separate test, now they're all inclusive. Unless I was doing it student by student, which I do not want to do at this forum, I couldn't do that, but I can assure you that at the campus level, they are able to do exactly what you said, because they do want to see what kind of progress or lack of progress is being made. As a matter of fact, the system even indicates to them the progress measure through DMAC as well for the students. Yes, ma'am.
My concern is the fact that our students that are being assessed in Spanish are not scoring very well. And so what is it that we are doing, or what is triggering this, that our Spanish speakers are not doing well when they're taking these assessment? And I know you said that the passing was 53%?
Right, it varies by
the district
grade.
standard is not 70, it's 53%. Okay,
Is
so
Connie Cruz here? I'm sorry, Ms.
Yeah, I was going to say, Ms. Cruz would
Cruz is
know
probably
the
answering this question.
individual action that the school district is taking towards that. By the way, she's our director of elementary education.
Good evening. Good evening. The question, I'm sorry, I was in the back and couldn't hear that well.
the concern is, why is it that our Spanish-speaking students that are taking these assessments in Spanish are scoring very low.
Scoring very low.
Yes.
That is something that we are looking at and working.
Okay.
We are using the SIOP strategies for the, and we're also, just yesterday, we were looking on our way to English that addresses a textbook with curriculum for the ESL and strategies for the ESL. We are looking at that. The principals are looking at. We're working very hard, but that is something that we continuously have to be working with, and it is our students.
Exactly. And, you know, I'd like to add is that, you know, whatever support you need, we're here to support you. And I know we're getting a new superintendent, and I'm so elated by that. And hopefully, you know, we can work with him in helping us bring these scores up, because these scores will eventually affect our district, our rating at the very end. So I'm very concerned about that, and if we can look into it very carefully, and whatever support you need, we need to provide it.
Thank you, and the principals are aware of that, and they're working very hard at addressing the needs of our students, our ESL students.
All right, thank you.
I have a question referencing the Spanish speakers. At what point does this district begin to transition bilingual to English only and English testing only?
Dr. Greer is Dr. Greer, do you want to address the transition? The transitional?
And the reason I asked the question on transition is because I can see that in the testing, and it's just an assessment, is we test better in English, we test better, and I'm wondering, is it the Spanish aspect and the testing in Spanish that's the difficulty? And is it an issue that just that group of students is having difficulty either way?
Perhaps the reason why the Spanish speakers are not doing well in the Spanish test is mainly because they are recent immigrants, because the majority of our ELL students that have been in the district since pre-kinder or kinder are testing in English. So you wanted to know about the transition, though?
Yes.
The majority of our students should be testing in English by third grade, or they should be able to test either in Spanish or English, with the exception of those students who would be first year, second year recent immigrants. However, our students are also transition based on the proficiency language proficiency level. So if they continue to be beginners or intermediate, they would have to be taught in Spanish for the reading and writing. The majority of our students are transitioning well. We are doing a lot there. One of our weakest areas was ESL. A lot of our teachers were not, or a lot of our campuses were not scheduling the ESL period for 45 minutes or 30 minutes even. And so I believe that it's been 3 years since we've been having the sheltered instruction training, and through that training we've done a lot of helping the teachers how to understand and how to deliver the instruction for students who are Spanish speakers to learn the English language. I hope I...
Thank you. It gives me the perspective I was looking at.
Okay.
Thank you.
I have a question for Ms. Greer.
Dr. Greer, a question?
Another question.
I have a question. I know, Ms. Cruz, you mentioned that you're looking for, getting resources that are geared to address the Spanish needs students, which is great. And on our way to, English is a good resource, and I'm familiar with that one. But my question to Ms. Greer is, how much money is being allotted to each campus to fund interventions or extra duty funding to address this particular group of students primarily, separate from what we're doing for interventions or after-school tutorials or during the school day tutorials for the general population? How much money have you allotted from your bilingual funding to address those kids in particular?
Well, thank you for asking that, because we really get very little money. We get about $600,000, and from that $600,000, we have to pay our stipends, and we have to purchase our testing and a lot of other different things that are mandated by the state. So really, by the time it gets to the campuses, the allocation is about sometimes $5,000, $10,000. That's for bilingual. However, we do have the Title III, and the Title III is district-based, and we use, and all of the campuses, whoever has the need, should submit a proposal, and those campuses will receive assistance with a tutor or a specialist to come and help our students. Usually we have about 5 or 6 tutors throughout the district. And then, in addition to that, they are able to use Title I funds, and they do receive quite a bit of funds from Title I. Title I funds are to be used to serve the students that are in greatest need. And if our ELL students are those students that are in greatest need, they should be addressed first.
Right, and I agree with that, because I know from experience, providing targeted instruction to the ELL students, having them work, heterogeneously within themselves, within this particular population, is effective. So I don't know if we can maybe look at funding to allow for the campuses to be able to address this group in particular, separate from the general population.
I did submit a proposal in June, and the reason I never submitted it in an agenda item, it's because I'm very conscientious about the funding and the issues that the district has, and I would never submit. I did submit it to Mr. Limon and to Ms. McCall. However, if there was no response, it's probably because there's no money to be provided for that particular program. So I will try again this coming year.
I would suggest, if the board's in agreement, that you continue looking into that, because separate from just resources, they need targeted instruction through an
And we
intervention.
also do need a lot of support. The campuses do need a lot of support in the bilingual program, because, as you all know, I'm only funded 20% bilingual. I do a lot of the federal, and it's extremely difficult. Unless they call me, it's difficult for me to be out there and just and provide the assistance and support that they really need.
Thank you. Any additional questions?
Thank you, Dr. Guerra and Ms. Cruz. I know that you do an awesome job, and hopefully with our new superintendent, we can see, great success with our students, especially our ELL students. So that'll be a task that we can give.
Thank you.
Anything
Well, I think
else?
you should do it, Mr. Frankel. Thank you very much for the report.
You're welcome.
Do any of the principals want to chime in any of this, or are you pretty well satisfied with what has been said? Okay, next presentation we have is the after-school program. Mr. Jack Garcia.
Mr. Limon, members of the board, thank you very much for having me. Happy holidays, by the way. I'm going to try to get this as quickly as possible. I appreciate you all giving me the time to present today. I know just last month we had a task force meeting. I know that you all received some of that in the mail. The task force meeting is a quarterly meeting that we have. It's usually a luncheon with parents, administrators, and also members of the board to discuss about the after-school program. As you all recall, this board was very gracious enough to fund our non-grant sites. The Cycle 6 grants had expired at the end of the year, so we have after-school programming at 18 schools. So we'll go to the next slide. I have Mr. Farias helping me. I have to raise this, I'm sorry. To the right, that you'll see is our Project Learning, which is our non-grant sites that consist of the Landrum, La Encantada, Fred Booth, Frank Roberts, Rangerville, and La Paloma. As you all recall, members of the board, we discussed about the junior high situation, and where I gave you all data numbers of how many students that we actually service, and we decided to service the sixth graders only. And so that's what we're serving at the non-grant sites. At the same time, at that time when we were discussing this, members of the board, as you recall, I was notified by TA that we were going to be funded for Cycle 8, Part B, which I think we were ranked 21st in the state of Texas. So we were excited about that, and that was the result of funding Excel U, which is the grant sites on the left-hand side, which consists of Leal, Cash, Dr. Garza, Ed Downs, Judge Oscar de la Fuente, Sullivan, Samuel High School, and the PRC and Amador Rodriguez. So we have 18 total. We can go to the next slide. These numbers, members of the board, the data that you have in front of you is numbers that are from the end of November. So you're looking at 3 months of solid data. I can tell you project learning on our elementary sites, we have the target number, the enrollment number, and the average, like our average attendance of students that are attending after school. Now, if you all may recall, we, because of our funding sources that we're utilizing, we have to be very specific on targeting at-risk youth. And those are, well, I'll go into a little bit more detail on those criteria, but those are the numbers. Our next slide is our sixth graders. And that's our numbers right now as of at the end of November. Now, we are looking at, I've talked to many of the administrators and the coordinators, and we're working on getting some of the numbers up on the junior high. The junior highs have been a challenge, but I think that for the most part, I think they're about where they need to be going into the spring. I'm going to go into Excel U elementaries. And I want to say by TA standards, we're 21st century, what they look at a 30-day period of a student that has been going regularly for 30 days as a target. And that's the number up on the very top where as far as the target, and as you can tell, many of the registrations go beyond the actual target amount. So right now, our Excel U, our grant sites are doing extremely well. Some have already surpassed those numbers. Now, I'm going to say this, that the minimum standards is the 30 days that the state requires. But there's proven data at the state TA, they already have that, where if a child participates in 120 days or more, they do exceptionally well in the classroom. And they do have that data to show at this time. I just read that recently.
Jack, just one quick question. Does it go back to whether it's Excel U or Project Learning? We're still, excuse me.
Sure.
We're still trying to approach at-risk students, correct?
Across the board, that's
Either
correct.
way.
Now, under the Project Learning, what I was trying to target was what I call the 60-40, where we target at least 60% or more those that are at risk. And then there was a question at that time, because we provide enrichment activities, we said, well, what if little Joey wants to get involved in music and he's passing, can he not participate in the after-school program? We said yes, and that's where that 40% comes into play. Now, for the most part, I've stressed to the coordinators who are out in the field to first obviously target those students that are academic need. So we're doing that across the board.
And the only reason I asked the question is at these particular campuses where you have an enormous amount of participation and you're way above what your target was, is there a model for rotation so that other students can come in and go through? Obviously, I know at the beginning of the year you started with a waiting list. A lot of students got in. Some parents didn't get their kids in. The question are we going to be able to participate? Is there going to be a rotation? So the question gets posed is how do we manage it when you have, and it's great that we have all these kids that want to be involved. I think it's fabulous because of the enrichment programs that you offer beyond the assistance. They're tremendous for students. So the issue is how do you deal with this dilemma?
It is basically up to the discretion of the campus principal to decide how they're going to continue the program into the spring. Now, TA does require us, Mr. Padilla, that we must do a second registration in the spring. Now, whether we continue with the same students, that's to our discretion. I have heard some discussion with the coordinators where the campus principal wants to rotate the entire group out and put a new set of 130 to 140 students. That's possible. That can be done. However, I tend to question because there might be a few that are already participating that do need the academic services, or there's some social issues that are involved also. I have little Joey who is being raised by a grandmother that has no parents, or the biological parents are nowhere to be found. So, these are situations where we evaluate the student and what their needs are. So,
and how much input do you have in this when the principal's doing the assessment?
I have input where I do get involved if I question if we are following the objectives and the goals of the grant. Yes, I will get involved at that point, but for the most part, I let the coordinator and the principal make that decision on how they're going to be doing that decision making. My coordinators are very good at communicating with me to give me the information, even if themselves question it as well. They're pretty good at saying, we're doing this right, we're doing that. They're pretty familiar about the goals and objectives and what I feel that is important. They keep me informed.
Okay. The only thing I would comment is the more exposure, the more students get to participate throughout.
I agree.
Is good.
And I will say, Mr. Padilla, we do have drop-in students as well that come in a couple of days during the week to do those enrichment activities as well.
I have one question. On the project learning, we have the 3 middle schools, and I noticed that Dr. Velasquez participated pretty well. What's happening there that's not happening on Miller George and Riverside?
It comes down to sometimes obviously a program and what I call an anchor program. What anchor program do you have that entices the students to go in there and also be involved in the academics? So I know I've talked to that coordinator about working on those numbers, and we do have plans of action on all. And I'm going to say this to members of the board: it is a difficult process. And my coordinators are trying really hard and working with the teachers and administration, and I think that we're going to look at increasing those numbers into the spring. I want to go into ExcelU, the secondary. Now, what I've been very impressed with, obviously on this side, related to secondaries, is always the high school. There's always, throughout the state of Texas, when it comes to this, it's very difficult because you have so many different activities at the high school level. And I'm proud to say that the high school did get a lot of registrations, and a lot of students are being involved in the academics there, and enrichment. I think some of you all saw the folklorial dance group also as well, and combination of chess and those activities. I'm very proud of where we're at, and now the 30-day number is the one on the right-hand side, the 68, but we're going to be hitting the 100 mark no later than probably January, February. So they give us that all the way into the summer to hit that target enrollment. So we're doing a really good job there. Also, the PRC in Amador, I actually met with Mr. Guerra, the principal at the PRC, to discuss the plan of action there. And it's a difficult situation there because those students are not there very long. So the 30-day is very difficult to get. But we do have a plan of action. We're going to be working on it. We've talked about even conducting services during spring break also as well, which is allowable in the grant. So we're working real well. Amador is really a unique situation there that is being focused by the state because you have students that are incarcerated. We service and we educate students all over from Cameron County, Willacy that come in, and they're really highly engaged during that time. So it's a pretty unique program. I'm going to go into the next slide. I have here, members of the board, program dates of importance on the left-hand side, when program started, when program ends for the semester, the spring term, and the summer term. And I may take note that I hope to inform the board later on during the spring of location and actual camps for the summer, because we are required by TA to do at least 6 weeks of summer camps. I list on the right-hand side our sources of funding, the total that we're working on as far as utilizing both for the grant and for the non-grant sites. So we're working on all those different types of funding. Next slide. I wanted to list also, this is the 4 component areas that we must address with the grant sites, and for the most part, a lot of our non-grants are also involved in this. Members of the board, I try to mirror as much as possible the non-grant with the grant, and the reason being is because when another cycle of funding is available to apply, it's such an easier transition to get into once a grant has been awarded. And rest assured, I will work hard to get those funding if indeed TA announces another round of funding, which would be a cycle 9. So that said, we hit the academic assistance, which is most important, the enrichment, the college workforce readiness, the parent component, and also, which is a big one, is our chess component. Now, as you all recall, members of the board, the chess component is funded by local and also from the grant also as well, okay? And we have a partnership with the Boys and Girls Club. The Boys and Girls Club provides us 1 Saturday per month for services for our after-school program students. And they've been very, very helpful as a partner. I want to say from this audience, when we were funded, I never got to recognize the coordinators, and I'm going to say this. I've always said this, you're only as good as the people around you, and I've been very blessed to have very good staff and support by administration and all. So if there's any members of the after-school program staff, you please stand up, both coordinators or office staff. I think I'm missing some, but I have some here today. As far as the chess program, I just want to let you all know that SBCISD will be hosting the regional tournament. We're not the awardee, but the organizer did come to us to talk about this, to be in a partnership. I discussed it with Mr. Limon. It benefits us tremendously financially because we don't have to transport students to another district for competition. I want to say that right now our numbers in the chess program is somewhere over 400 students. So we have a big chess group. The regional chess tournament down in the valley is the biggest state tournament in the entire state of Texas. Not even the state tournament comes close. We're looking at 1,500 to 1,600 participants, and it's going to be a Saturday and Sunday tournament, January 31st and February 1st at VMA. So we're working on that right now as well. Just to give you some numbers right now, a total of numbers for the fall and spring. I don't have that there, members of the board, but I will tell you that from Project Learning, the non-grant sites, we've serviced 707 students. From Excel, the grant sites, we've served 1,332 students. And the total for both grant and non-grant, 2,039 students for 3 months. So we've really kind of worked on getting a lot of the numbers. The last one is our challenges, our strengths. I think that obviously when it's a challenge when you're trying to hire new staff and you have to target 18 schools. It's always going to be a challenge, but I think for the most part, I think we've done very well. And I think the other biggest challenge is educating the parents to understand the selection process. The days of open enrollment or open the doors and they will come, it doesn't work that way. And it's been very difficult for some to understand that. But through education, through the coordinators and the teachers, we've been able to successfully explain to them, and they're saying, oh, okay, I understand now. I understand this selection process. Also, just general things, obtaining our proper equipment, introducing after-school program to these new sites, keeping up enrollment, par with goals and policies and procedures. Our strengths have been, we're state recognized. If you get into my Texas ACE website right now, you're going to see a picture of SBCISD. We're a model case program also as well. We're one of 4 in the entire state of Texas. I think also when you look at the October Festival that many of you all saw, that's something that we hadn't done in a while, and we brought that back. And I thank Coach Gomez for assisting us and helping us on that. That was a really good event for the community. Our program is community-based, so we will be involved in community special events. Our chess programs, and I got many coordinators that are working on the Christmas parade as we speak. Many of them are working on floats and things also with his kids. We have a good parental involvement group also working on ESL and GED also as well. I think that's it. If any of the board have any questions, any concerns, any suggestions.
Any questions? Thank you very much, Jack.
you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Garcia. Next item on the superintendent's report, we have the investment report update. We also have the board member training report as required by the Texas Education Agency that's being presented by our board president, Mr. Padilla.
Okay, our Texas Association of School Continuing Education Report for School Board Trustees. Reporting period, January 1st to December 31st. Hector Leal, 13.75 hours. Oscar Medrano, 19.75 hours. Mr. Padilla, 23.75 hours. Mr. Mendez, 23.75 hours. Ms. Gonzalez, 24.50. Ana Cruz, 39, and Ms. Huerta, 46. These are, again, the continuing education hours for our trustees. These are requirements by TEA.
Thank you, Mr. Padilla. We also have disbursements and disbursements by organizations. That concludes the superintendent's report.
Move to item number 7, public comment. Anyone registered for public comment? Nope. Okay. Move to item number 8. In order to promote efficient meetings, the board may act upon more than one item by a single vote through the use of a consent agenda. Consent items placed on the agenda shall be marked with an asterisk. Consent items are for which no board discussion is anticipated and for which the superintendent recommends approval. Prior to the time which the approval of consent agenda is had, at the request of any member of the board of trustees, any item on the consent agenda shall be removed and given individual consideration. Under business and finance, 1412A1, request for approval of payment for repair of bus area. 1412A2, request for approval of proposal on windstorm, hurricane, and hail insurance. 1412A3, request to approve the appropriation of funds for the repair and replacement of the technology building roof. 1412A4, request to approve the appropriation funds to purchase a 7 reverse osmosis water system. 1412A5, request for approval of resolution on extra duty and retention incentive resolution.
Question.
1412A6, request for approval of 2014-2015 budget transfers. 1412A7, request for approval of 2014-15 budget amendments. 1412A8, discussion regarding bids received on the following properties struck off to Cameron County for itself and other taxing jurisdictions from the tax resale conducted on July 2nd, 2014. Question. 1412A9, discussion and possible action on the resolution approving the bids received on tax resale conducted on July 2nd, 2014 for the above-mentioned properties. Question. Under Administration, 1412A20, request for approval of update board policy DEA local. 1412A11, request for approval for update board policy DIA local. 1412A12, request for approval to update board policy EIF local. 1412A13, request approval to update board policy FB local. 141214, request approval to update board policy FFH local. May I have a motion to approve all those items not in question?
So moved.
There's a motion on the floor. Second?
Second.
There's a second. All those in favor state by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. 14A12-5, request approval of extra duty and retention incentive resolution.
Yes. Well, it's more of a request. A couple weeks ago, I requested a public information request with regards to overtime. And I reviewed that information, and I know that right now our district may not be in a state where we can probably approve a retention incentive. There was $163,000 that was expended on overtime alone. And I just feel that if top district administrators permitted that amount of money to be spent on overtime on just certain individuals, I think it's prudent that we show that all of our employees are valued and that we consider a retention incentive for all district employees versus handpicking just those that are going to be eligible for overtime. I think we need to make sure that our district employees equally understand that we do value them, that we are very proud of the loyalty that they have given our district, and that we can go ahead and provide some kind of incentive so that they're very well aware of our gratitude for our district employees. So, I don't know, can I make a motion now, or should I wait?
You can place a motion at any time.
Okay, so with that, I'd like to go ahead and make a motion for the consideration and request for approval of resolution on extra duty and retention incentive resolution.
There's a motion on the floor. Is there a second? There's a second. All those in favor, state by saying aye. Those against? Denied. Any additional questions?
Since your return, Mr. Limon, you've been actively advocating for equalizing our salaries at the administrative level, which some of those efforts have been successfully done. Today, you're coming to us with the incentive resolution inclusive of all employees. I'm for retention. Thank you. I am for retention and rewarding personnel at all levels. However, we all know where we stand financially, and if it is in any form of an incentive that should be awarded, it should be issued where most people need it most, and that is by observation and asking other professionals, pretty much at the classified level and teachers level. But before we submit the recommendation, I'd like to ask some of these questions so it could be on record and to make sure that we don't fall under our financial exigency. First, where do we stand on our fund balance?
Fund balance, Mr. McCall, at one time was at 18 million, then down to 15 million. Now with the insurance, we're uncertain, but give me your best estimate.
It'll be somewhere probably between 9 and 10 million.
9 and 10 million, okay. How much are we supposed to have on reserve?
Usually it's recommended that we have about 3 months.
Correct.
And how much is that?
Right now, we would have less than 2 months.
Less than 2 months. And what other items are paid out of our general fund balance?
What other items? Is that
Yes,
the
ma'am.
question?
Yes.
At this point, during the year, we're using our budget. However, when there's a budget amendment, that would affect the fund balance for the upcoming year because that would be items that were not originally in the budget, so that would draw the budget down.
So your expert opinion, where do we stand on our outstanding balances?
For the August of 2015?
Actually, for this month and next month. If we're 2 months, if we only have enough funds for 2 months, where do you see, how much is still outstanding?
Okay, let's clarify this.
Okay.
We have a lot more funds than for 2 months. You know, right now, we have money coming from the state. Our fund balance is still healthy. I don't want the people to think that we just have funding for 2 months, because that's not true.
No, you're absolutely right.
Okay.
But what I want to make sure, I want to make clear is that we don't find ourselves submitting to TEA, our financial exigency, in the future. I want to make sure that if we're going to reward our personnel, we're going to do it in a solvency state, not
Correct.
Going into the red in the next couple of months
Okay.
and find
No,
that
no,
risk.
that won't happen, sir.
Okay.
That won't happen.
Okay, so, Mr. Limon, it is your recommendation to use our fund balance for this incentive?
No, sir, I never said that.
Well, so,
Emma, Ms. McCall,
Yes.
I was there at the Finance Committee meeting, and my understanding was that if we did give out this incentive, that it would bring our fund balance to 6.3 million. And that's not including, because we still have bills, medical bills coming in that needs to be paid by the district, by us, from the managed care system. And you said that it would eventually bring our fund balance to a very low, critical.
Yes, I believe, from the looks of what we've gotten so far, our fund balance in 1 year will probably go down by about 50%. And that is, I've never seen anything like that.
Okay,
It's a very, very large hit.
okay, so
Ms.
there's a I'm sorry. So there's a possibility that it can go down even lower.
I don't think it, depending if you had approved an incentive, and depending on the amount of it, that would bring it down more if that was to happen.
Okay, so,
But without the incentive right now, you're estimating about 9 to 10 million.
Yes, right now, that's what I'm estimating.
Ms. McCall, you stated a minute ago that we were at 18, and then we're at 15, and that we're now maybe possibly at 9 and 10. I would imagine that we attribute most of these losses to the medical, or the insurance policy, the insurance program we have, which is also, I think, costing us an overestimated of about $3 million a year.
It went way more than 3 million.
More than 3, okay. So
Way more than
that is the largest reason for the reduction in our fund balance.
Correct.
Is okay. And at this point, we still are seeing overruns for that program, even from last year's expenses that still have not come in and still have not been accounted for.
Right, the last lag report, we finally got one for November, as I think, I don't know if you were in our last finance committee,
No, you
but
didn't have a chance.
I think you saw the lag report that came in for
Yes.
October. And in October, they paid out, it was like 1.5, September, it was 1.5 million that was for August and prior.
Mhm.
And then there was close to another million that was paid out in October. In November, there's still a substantial amount that was for the prior year also.
And I think what we estimated as the lag that we were seeing was almost a 14 to 16 month lag.
It's horrible.
Yeah. So in essence, if we've lost anywhere between 5 to 6 million over the last year and a half to 2 years, there is a possibility that based on the lag, and for those that may not understand what the lag is referring to, is the insurance, when the school district provides medical services and you go to see a doctor, the doctor bills our provider or bills the district. And the problem is we don't get billed immediately. In some cases, some of the billing that we're receiving are for doctor visits from last year that are still barely coming in. And with that lag, you're still paying bills from last year's school year, and we're looking at a lag that's running 16 to 18 months. So if you're already running at a deficit of 3 million, by the time you close out the year, you may actually wind up being at a deficit of 4.5 or 5 million. And that is the biggest problem, unfortunately, this district finds itself amongst other issues. And I'll be the first proponent for raises, for increases, but I do believe it is important for this district to solidify its financial position to be able to not give you an incentive, to give you a pay raise. An incentive is a thank you for the work you've done and the work that you've done. You know, it really doesn't salvage you anything. Yes, you know, it's something better than nothing, but at the same token, I think the perspective here is let's put this district in the positive financial position that it should be in to be able to pay our teachers, pay our maintenance, pay every individual that works for this district the true worth of what they put into this district, and put us at the top level of paying our teachers so we don't lose good quality teachers to all the other school districts. You know, we've had an exodus of teachers over the last 3 to 4 years that is unbelievable. Great quality individuals that we would have loved to have retained. But the schools next to us are paying $4,000, $5,000, $6,000 more a year than what we're paying. So we're really doing an injustice to not just you, the teacher, we're doing an injustice to the students and to the taxpayers. So, you know, I'm a huge proponent of paying people, but I'm trying to assure ourselves that we get back to where we're financially strong, financially stable, and be able to pay everybody correctly for the long haul, for the rest of your career here at the district, not an incentive that doesn't really solve the problem as a whole. Now, unfortunately, the incentives that we've looked at and the incentives that we have approached in the years past equate to almost $1 million. You know, $1 million on top of a fund balance that has lost $4, $5, $6 million over the last 2 years we can't support it. And that's unfortunate because what's happening is now the district's finding itself in a position that our fund balance cannot cover the required coverage of 90 days. And what's going to happen to this district if we continue to go this way is TEA is going to begin to come in and monitor us. And that makes our management of the district even tighter and more difficult. You know, I'm a proponent. I want to help our teachers. I want to solve the problem. But we need to define where the problems are. And we definitely know that our medical program, our self-insured program, is not functional the way it is. And it is a huge issue that this board and these trustees are going to have to tackle this coming year. And we may have to take a true look at this and find a way to make it solvent, you know, so that we can instead of giving, you know, paying out $3.5 million in medical issues, I'd rather pay $3.5 million to you guys, to the teachers, because the cost is there and the need is there. You know, it is commendable. We need to do something for you. But I think it's an issue of solving the problem so we can truly do something that's again, in the long term for you, that helps your retirement, helps your pay all year. So we are caught in a dilemma. We're caught in a very difficult. Our passion and our sincerity is to give you something. But at the same token, it's also our judgment is you can't do it right now. You know, that's my piece. I apologize, but I needed to say, because I'm a proponent to help you, but I want to help you solve the problem so that we can give you the pay that you need and not lose quality. I don't want to lose another teacher this next year to a neighboring school. You know, we've got ideas campuses popping up everywhere. We've got competition everywhere. You know, and we've had some tremendous teachers at this district that have been here for years and have dedicated themselves to this district. And they find themselves in positions when they pick up the newspaper, you know, you travel 6 miles north and you're going to get paid $6,000 more. It's a no-brainer. But we can't have that, because that deprives our students of quality teachers that we need to keep. Any other questions? None? Okay. At this point, I guess we'll move to item number 1412A8. What's- No action, well, there'll be no action on 1412A5. Again, we'll move on to 1412A8. Oh, well, it does require.
On nine it does, but not on
Oh, okay, I apologize. Okay, we'll move on to 1412A9. Move to approve a resolution approving the bids received on 16 tax resale conducted on July 2nd, with the exception of the following properties located at 155 South Travis Street, 2, 151 South Travis Street, 3, 165 Travis Street, 4, 620 South Bonham, and 5, 600 South Bonham. I'll ask for a motion to approve excluding those properties. There's a motion on the floor. There is a second. All those in favor state by saying aye. Motion passes. Move to item number 9. Discussion under the authority of Texas Government Code 551071 for the purpose of private consultation with the board's attorney on any subjects or matters authorized by law. A, settlement agreement with Enriquez Enterprise Incorporated, cause number 2012 DCL 4744A. 551074, the purpose of the appointment, employment, evaluation, reassignment, duties, discipline, or dismissal of a public officer or employee, to hear complaints or charges against a public officer or employee. A, report on personnel. B, employment, resignation, and retirement. C, discussion, possible action on contract of head football coach AD. D, discussion and possible action on contract for head band director and director of bands. E, level 3 grievance, Olivia Flores. F, the board will deliberate on the appointment, employment of the new superintendent for the district, to include a discussion of the new superintendent's contract. We go into closed session at 8:55. At 10:25, we move to item number item number 9, back in open session. Action and items discussed in closed session if necessary. Mr. Limon?
Mr. President, I recommend that the Board of Trustees approve the settlement agreement with Enriquez Enterprises Incorporated as discussed in executive session.
There's a request for a motion to approve the settlement. So moved. There's a motion and a second. All those in favor state by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Mr. President, I also recommend that the board approve the employment and resignations as discussed in executive session.
There's a request for a motion to approve the employment and resignations. So moved. There's a motion.
Second.
And there's a second. All those in favor state by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Mr. Limon.
Next item, under discussion, possible action on head football coach AD. I recommend that the board approve the contract extensions and terms as discussed in executive session.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. All those in favor state by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Under discussion, possible action on the contract with the handband director, director of bands, I recommend that the board approve the contract extension and terms as discussed in executive session.
Again, there's a request for motion. Mr. Mendez? Ms. Fatima? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Under E, level 3 grievance on Olivia Flores, there is no action on behalf of the board. And item F, the board will, the discussion possible action to approve and offer employment to new superintendent and confer the authority to the board president to execute contract. Is there a motion on the floor to approve?
So moved. Second.
There's a motion and a second by
Second.
by Anna. All those in favor, state by saying aye.
Aye.
Next item on the agenda is adjournment. We are adjourned.